Many thanks again for rejoining us on NAIRA REDESIGN studio of independent television. Beautiful Thursday morning. We just scale up our conversations on the build-up to the 2023 election. As you know, the election is on Saturday, 25th February, and then of course we have another on the 11th of March. But all efforts, all roads lead to INEC with expectations on how the election will pan out this Saturday. As I said before, expectations are high at all levels of governance, of leadership, and what have you. But a major issue that has been very thorny and has attracted a lot of discussion, conversation, reactions, and counter-reactions in the last couple of days has been the issue of the NAIRA swap deal or the NAIRA swap policy, the NAIRA redesign, or the change of NAIRA note, whatever you want to call it, is being a major issue. I have with us here in the studio a member of the House of Representatives Adult Committee on the NAIRA swap policy. Is also the member representing Eastern Northeast, Eastern Southeast Federal Constituency. I'd like to thank very especially Barrister Sergius Ogun for joining us on the show. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. This policy from its foundation looks good, but people have talked about the timing and then the positioning, and people have also said that, well, it has political correlation. As a member of the Adult Committee of the House of Representatives on the NAIRA swap policy, what are the findings from your engagement and interactions?
Well, it's a nice policy, like you have said. And when people say the challenge is with the timing, if not now, when? There's nothing wrong with the timing. When you say, people say the challenge is with the timing, is it because there's an election around the corner? Our lives should not be tied around an election. An election is an event, a one-day event. On Saturday, people will go to the polls. By 2 o'clock, if everyone is off the line, the queue, and you have voted, that will be it. Hopefully by Sunday, it will be announced. And they will move on. So the way politicians have made Nigerians fixated on elections is not something that is allowed. We should not allow this. It's a one-day event, and that's it. 25th, we are done. I think 11th of March, we'll go for the governorship and House of Assembly, and that's it. So the policy is a wonderful policy. And from our engagement with the stakeholders, it's obvious that most people do not like this policy. And on the list of every Nigerian is corruption. We will fight corruption. Even the politicians campaigning now, especially the presidential, we're going to fight corruption. But the average man doesn't really want people to fight corruption. I mean, they are happy with the status quo. We engaged with the NSA, representative of the NSA. And he was talking about the people in the war front and all that. When they do transfer, the enemy will know where they are. And he gave an example of Afghanistan and all the American troops and all that. And my question to him was, if this is a special force, nobody stays in the war front forever.
Absolutely.
The military can make arrangement for cash. Now we are aware that INEC, between the INEC and CBN, they have made arrangement for cash. The military is even more sensitive. They can make arrangement for cash, the minimum cash these people can hold. You are in the war front. You are not drinking beer. In any case, they have their telephones with them. They call friends. So the enemy can't track them when they make calls to friends and family. It's the only when they now make transfer, they will track them. And I also said to him, don't forget that before liberalization of the banking sector, and we have telecommunication, people used to travel and leave instruction with the bank. Every month, give this amount of money to my family. It's a standing instruction. So can that happen? So where I'm going to really is that most people are not in support of this policy because beside the advantages we have seen, they have told us it has brought down kidnapping, banditry, even robbery. They have told us that clearly. Then why are they not in support? Because it will curb corruption to a large extent. If you are transferring money, it can easily be tracked by NFIU and EFCC. So why are we not supporting it? Have you seen a minister serving under Buhari talking about this policy, in support of this policy? They are not doing it. The secret agents are not in support. Somebody told me, I was speaking in the civil society event on Monday in Port Harcourt, And somebody had told me in Port Harcourt, they were driving on a Sunday before the Monday, that a policeman stopped and said that, how now? I said, fine. Nothing. The person said, I have not even seen the redesign note for how many. They said, okay, you can do transfer. Okay, I take it that the policeman was joking.
Okay.
Because how many people will do transfer to you? Why will you give your account to somebody? How can you justify that? So it's a wonderful policy. My own challenge with the policy is the sabotage. There is this advert, I mean, all the banks were doing adverts on fintech. So this would have been the time to exhibit it. Something about the wallets, when a guy was leaving the house, I don't know which of the banks, and then somebody said, I'm going back to schools, it made a transfer. And they say, okay, the plumber is coming, he made a transfer. The driver said, we're going to buy petrol, he made a transfer. That advert has been running for how many years now? But this would have been the time for it to play out.
Okay. Suddenly
you are transferring money through the banks, it's not dropping. Even the banks are not in support. They are sabotaging it. We had told the CBN governor, if you say you give money to the commercial banks, and maybe they are not distributing it, give us weekly reports of how much you are giving to the commercial banks.
So we can track.
We gave that instruction 3 weeks ago when he met with us. I am not aware as of last week that he has even sent anything. Then we invited the MD, Nigerian Printing, Nigerian Security
Printing and Meeting Company.
He came and said, that was 2 weeks ago, that they had printed over 600 billion. But he also admitted that I think the mistake there is that they were printing the higher denominations.
Not the lower denominations.
Not the lower ones. Those are the ones that the poor people spend.
So in a sense, doesn't it strike us that in this policy, perhaps the worst hit in this case are the poor people, the rural communities, the rural dwellers? Because I saw recently CBN is moving to communities to give the new note, as it were. In fact, in Edo State, a similar policy implementation was taking place. Is this not an afterthought?
Yeah, maybe they did not expect the sabotage. But again, the CBN governor did say they have over 30,000 registered money agents. What they call money agents.
Okay.
So this will have all these ones in the rural areas, then the POS operators and all. But the big challenge that we don't even talk about is that they say there's no services in the rural areas. But there is a program in NCC, the Universal Service Provision Fund, USFP. When the telecommunications company were instructed initially by NCC to go to the rural areas, they were hesitant because it's commercial. I mean, you cannot go to a community where you have less than 20,000 people and put a mask there. You will not make your money back. So they now amended the act to say 2.5% of their turnover, annual turnover, should be paid along with their renewal license yearly. So of this money, NCC took 1% to move infrastructure to the underserved and unserved, which means the rural areas. That's a lot of money in dollars. So as I speak now, we should have universal coverage. We should have covered the whole country with infrastructure, telecommunication infrastructure. So with this, the telcos, the telecommunication companies should be able to co-locate, put their infrastructure alongside those infrastructure to serve the communities. That is not happening. So when they were talking about not being able to transmit results, I brought this up and I also come with emotion. But as you remember, the president reversed the National Assembly and we had to allow the transfer of results. So I left it. But now that we are back again, I'm revisiting it. By the time we resume, I have emotion ready to take. Okay. NCC needs to explain to Nigeria what they are doing with that money. Okay. They're supposed to build an emergency response center, but it's not working. So where is the money?
All right, let's go back to the stand of some of the sitting governors that are not really in tune with the presidential directive on the new NAIRA swap. Could it be that they felt, because from their body language and from statement they've made, that it's a bid to stop them from getting their re-election? And of course, they felt it's also a bid to stop their presidential candidates. Do you share that thought too?
The only party that is saying this is APC, to the best of my knowledge. And if APC came in, you see, let's go back to the manifesto. I just hate to talk about APC right now because, I mean, there's no need. If you say you are coming to fight corruption, and you say you have 22 governors, you are controlling all the federal agencies, we have over 800 federal agencies.
Wow.
So because you are controlling all this, you are now insisting that this policy should not go ahead, it should be reversed. What does that tell us, Nigerians? That they are swimming in corruption. That's what it tells us. So at the end of the day, why come is only APC that is crying? Woof. Why APC alone? Okay, if you remember when Buhari came in 2015, APC can, see tomorrow they are still campaigning with it, that most state governors could not pay salaries. But what we fail to ask them is, those governors ran election, either for a second term or they brought their successors. Where did they get money to run those elections?
If you say it's only the APC that is complaining about the NAIRA swap policy, even your presidential candidate recently has started criticizing the policy. That wasn't his position initially. Initially, he was supportive of it and all of that. But in recent time, as we get closer to the election, seems to be criticizing the policy. What does that portend? What does that say about him?
Is because of the reaction of the people. Any sane person, anyone that means well for this country, will support this policy. But like we have all said, the challenge is with the implementation. One, implementation, then secondly, the sabotage. Almost everybody that has the opportunity to sabotage this policy is sabotaging it. Then this speaks to the weakness in our institutions. But having said that, in Port Harcourt on Monday, I gave an example which hit home. I said, look, we have to sacrifice for this country. I'm not enjoying the policy. I'm not a Nigerian. I go to the constituency. There are things ordinarily I would do for people that I cannot do right now. I also can identify with, because I'm from a very rural community. People go to farm. They can't sell their produce. But let's just go through this. And I give an example of, if you remember in Port Harcourt, because of the way they were building the flyovers, for a year or two, it was inconveniencing because you have to go through terrible traffic. There was doors if you live around there and all. I said, but what is happening today? You are not just driving through the flyover, you are flying through the flyovers because the traffic has disappeared. So just persevere. And there was an example I gave in a television station last week of a daughter driving with the father, and she was going through a storm. And the storm was terrible. People were parking at the point she could not see at all. The father said, just drive on. Within a short time, they came out of the storm, and it was sun, and it was dry. And the father said, this is how life is. No matter how stormy it is, just keep going. You will get out of it.
How will this policy impact on our election? Because that seems to be a major concern for most people. And then there's been a talk that Mr. President was hoodwinked into this policy. I mean, we've heard all of that on several media platforms. What's your take on this?
Well, you see, if we go back to the corruption again, if I am inviting you for a job interview and you have to bribe me to get the job, what quality of job, what quality of service am I expecting from you? So yeah, people talk about there's going to be corruption and all that. People want to collect money. Ask me, how can I be applying for a job and I am bribing you to hire me? So ordinarily, it should not impact on this election. Those that need to be mobilized with cash, the security agents, INEC, have been mobilized. So if people will have to come out because they are persuaded with money to vote, there's not worth it.
But there are those who need to travel to their villages and maybe stay a few days for the election, particularly because they registered there. There's that challenge of being able to go to the village. And then you also have the twin problem of the energy crisis. Transportation has gone up. Buying fuel, the cost of buying petrol has gone up. How do you look at, as we conclude now, how do you look at these twin monsters?
It's a civic responsibility. People, the advice is being registered in a place close to your house. Somebody was saying, I don't even have money to go to my polling units, but there's restriction on movement that day.
Yes.
So, like I said, it's a sacrifice we have to make. In the Western world, people go there. I was in Toronto some years ago, and somebody was talking about night market, underground. And another person said, Nigerians, That, where were our parents, our great-grandparents, when these people were developing their country?
So as we approach the polls on Saturday, what are your expectations?
I expect Nigerians to come out and vote for a righteous man that will lead this country and not begin to sell their votes. Because it's your right. You don't sell your vote for, I don't want to use the word, for somebody that is not competent, and then you start complaining that this country is not working, nothing is working. The NAIRA policy is not properly implemented now, it's been sabotaged and all, but let's just persevere, we'll see it through. We don't have petrol in the country right now. It's part of the challenge we have gone through in the last years. But by the grace of God, we'll be out of it. The president said he's going to deregulate. He's kicked the can down the road. He's not doing it now. It's going to happen in June. By June, he will not be in government. But it's okay. Hopefully, Dangote should come on stream before June. That will make some savings. The refineries, Port Harcourt refinery should come on stream. But again, that's another thing we'll talk about another day. It's not the contract that was awarded that is being implemented today. So what's going on with the billions of dollars?
Awarded.
So,
too many questions begging for answer. Sergius Ogun, it's good to have you on the show today. If we have more time, probably would have engaged you more. But I'm sure after the election, we'll be able to have you back here. Sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's still Nigeria Decides live studio. And now we're going straight to our major talking point on the show today. Dr. Don Pedro Baski is the Director Research and Strategy for the Atiku Okowa Campaign Organization. Is here with us in the studio. We're expecting Right Honorable Razak Bello Sagi, former member House of Representatives, who is the Vice Chairman, Edo State Campaign Council of the APC. That will be coming up in a moment. Stay with us. It's still Nigeria Decides on independent television. Don't go away.